Welcome, everyone. This is the Bleak House's launch party, and it's your host, PL McMillan. You can call me Plim, and I'm here with Kate Maruyama, and we're celebrating the launch of her book, again, Bleak Houses. Hey, Kate, how's it going? I realized,
there's the book.
No, hold it up for longer. Let's see it. Let's see that Lynn Hansen
This
cover.
beautiful Lynn Hansen cover.
Yay.
That features Wolf's Lair on it, which is the house from the first novella in here. And I have to show the back because this is a fabulous new series from Raw Dog Screaming Press, the selected papers from the Consortium for the Study of Anomalous Phenomena, edited by R.J. Joseph. Yeah, I'm really excited about it, and it looks so beautiful. And Lynn talked about how it was an old cover from edition of Dracula with embossed gold on it that inspired her for the cover. So, hooray!
Amazing. But yeah, so my guest, and I did say your last name right?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. You're
So,
good.
A little intro. Kate is the author of Harrowgate, Halloween Beyond, A Gentleman's Suit, and her novella Family Solstice was named Best Fiction Book of 2021 by Rue Morgue magazine and is featured in Bleak Houses. Her short work has appeared in journals including Asimov's Sci-Fi, Analog, and Uncharted, as well as in numerous anthologies, including Halloween Carnival 3. She writes, teaches, cooks, and eats in Los Angeles, where she lives. And I will be sharing her socials in the chat. So make sure you follow her, check her out, support her wherever she is. So again, welcome. And the book, as you said, so is the selected papers for the study of anomalous phenomenon going to be a series?
Yeah, so this is a series of novellas, and R.J. Joseph is editing for Raw Dog, and I'm very excited about the next one, which is in January by L. Marie Wood, which is called 12 Hours, which I just read, which is phenomenal. It feels a little bit like kind of Goosebumps for grown-ups, and so my two novellas are Gothic. They're both set in houses, hence the title. And all of them are just, a little bit spooky and completely absorbing, and are meant to be, what I love about novellas is sort of like read in only a couple sittings. So
perfect. And now again, so this Bleak Houses, these compelling explorations of dark family secrets fearlessly delve into some of today's most relevant and troubling issues. In Safer, Kate explores what parents will do for a child and what happens to outsiders in unsafe houses, while Family Solstice addresses the dangers of tradition, inheritance, and the sins of the father. Now, this is out today, right?
It is out today.
Perfect. Congratulations. That must feel amazing.
It's very exciting, and thanks everyone who's been already supporting it and sharing their covers when they get it. And I'm really grateful. You don't do this alone, and like the community of friends I have around me is really awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, again, we're going to be doing some readings, but before that, I'm going to interrogate Kate and see if we can't make her cry. Okay, so first question, what first got you into horror?
I have to say, well, I always liked spooky things and was drawn to them in the library, but it was my boyfriend in high school who gave me Night Shift by Stephen King, and that's when I was absolutely hooked. And I'm now married to him, so it worked out.
Oh, so he was your high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Aww.
And I guess it's sort of, my first novel, I didn't know it was horror. It was a love story. It's just one of them was dead. Apparently it was horror, so I kind of embraced it after that. And I think when you write demons into things, I guess you call it horror. So I've been having a lot of fun in that realm now.
And Bridget Brave needs to know which Night Shift cover.
Oh, the mummy hand with the eyeballs? I mean, I think that's the OG cover. I'm not sure, but I believe so.
She said it was for signs, so we just had to check.
Yeah.
Okay, so both of the stories in Bleak Houses, which again were Safer and Family Solstice, you say that both of these stories take place in houses based on real houses. Can you talk a little bit more about those houses and how they kind of inspired the stories in Bleak Houses?
Yeah,
I said
so
houses like a million
I
times.
know it's hard to avoid. I find that when I'm writing something about the book too. Yeah, so the first story is set in lockdown in Los Angeles, and it's set in Wolf's Lair, which is a big, beautiful 1930s, actually 1920s castle on top of Beechwood Canyon. I used to do a lot of walking there because we lived there, and I kind of coveted it a little bit. Moby bought that house, I think about 10 years ago, and just painstakingly restored it to its original beauty and then sold it. And he sold it to Anonymous. So my thinking about who Anonymous could be is sort of what led to the story. And as I started to research the house, I found out that apparently it's haunted. There is a monkey, a gibbon, that haunts the gatehouse. And the gibbon was at odds with Mrs. Wolf. Mr. Wolf named the house after himself. I believe he was a real estate guy or an oil guy. The monkey was always at odds with the wife, and so that sort of led to some ghost characters in the book. And those aren't really spoilers; they are as much characters as are living characters.
So,
Oh, and yeah,
oh, I was gonna say, confession here, I absolutely hate monkeys. I think they're the least trustworthy animal in the planet. I think because they're very similar to people and they'll just go nuts.
this is not a good monkey, so
I
I
know.
think your
I
fears were
felt I
well
felt
founded.
validated. I was like, good, another monkey I can hate.
Right. So,
Okay, and
yeah,
the
and the
second one?
second house is actually based on the house I grew up in. And it started because I was in the process of selling my parents' house, and no one was living in it. And we had it set to 55 degrees, but all the same, the pipes burst. And so when the day it was supposed to change hands, the person who was buying it went in, and there was a waterfall coming down the stairs, and all of well, that would be a spoiler, so I won't do that. But anyway, I
Yeah,
had to
no
work through it.
spoilers.
I had to work through it, and I was trying to do a ghost story, and that was a little too close to home because I had just lost my mom. And this family came about mostly because Lisa Morton was noodling an idea for an anthology on winter solstice, and so I was like, winter solstice, what can I set in the house? The family evolved, and that story came about.
Perfect.
And on
Uh,
my Instagram, you can find photos of both those houses.
awesome. You should share those on your Twitter so people can check them out once they've bought the book or won the book.
It is a possibility.
Okay, so the first novella in this duo, Safer, it takes place in present day Hollywood, and we learn some creepy things about celebrities. What inspired that?
Yeah, so I worked in the film industry for a good 15, 20 years. And I was a development executive. And I worked for, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement when I started working for Sylvester Stallone. And I also worked for a couple of bosses who were very well off and perhaps had a wobble. There were things that, let's just say I had to drive to Hollywood with an envelope full of cash and put it through a mail slot on an unmarked apartment to erase a boss's speeding ticket for going 80 on Sunset Boulevard. So they would not have to go to traffic court because they do not have time for that stuff. And so that sort of like wobbly line of ethics is something that I definitely push in this book. And all comfortability of working for someone when you're deeply in their home and you're not quite sure where the boundaries are. And the section that I will read from Safer is when Sol has kind of reached the end of her tether with those boundaries and how they're set every day.
Perfect. And then the second one, Family Solstice, as the title kind of implies, is very centered on a family and the dynamics in the family, which are pretty intense. Where did you pull that inspiration from?
Not my own, fortunately, a little bit my own, but
Your
not,
family's in the
yeah,
chat. You're
it's
like,
very
this is
funny.
definitely not based on you.
As it's my childhood home, I'm hoping people aren't confused. No, my parents do not have relics of didn't have relics of slave times around their house. I had to put it in for this family. Um, Reasons why, you will have to read the book to find out. But I did have, so I had two brothers who are 6 and 8 years older than me. And they made up a third brother, Pinkeltine, who had apparently left the house and would send postcards from his adventures abroad. And so for my whole childhood, I felt like someone was missing at Thanksgiving. And my parents sort of let this go because they couldn't think I could be so dumb as to believe Pinkeltine is the real name of a human. They just thought it was a hilarious joke. And so that was sort of my model for some absent brothers in this particular family. And a lot of it's just drawn from being that much younger. The older siblings are always allowed to do stuff first, like drive cars, go out on their own, not have curfew. And so that sort of pining is something that I think I instilled in Shay, because she honestly, at the beginning of the book, cannot wait to get to the basement, which is a rite of passage for 13-year-olds in the family. So,
my parents always said that my younger sister was they had adopted her from a family of monkeys, and I'm actually now thinking about it, like my younger sister did terrorize me a lot, so maybe that's where my distrust of monkeys came from.
you know, siblings, monkeys, it all comes together.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think this might
fears
be
are,
childhood trauma
that might
inflicted on
be.
me by my family. So
Well, I think that might be a good thing to write. So think about that.
writing about monkey horror would hit too close to like true trauma, I think. So I might leave that one be.
Yes, only with
Okay.
support.
Yeah. So were there any parts of these novellas that were difficult to write?
I think Family Solstice was just hard because I was, again, working through how I felt about a home. So when I was actually really trying to put the reader in that home um, and create affection for it and stuff, it was an odd place to dwell. But also the family dysfunction I kept sort of boosting. And after a while, it was funny because people have asked like why it wouldn't be a novel, and I was like, I don't think I could do a whole novel of these people or spend time with them that long. This was kind of the perfect, you know, it was just a dark place to be. Um, so Safer was not, that was going back into lockdown. So I did have to make sure to take breaks because that was a hard time to dwell in. It's definitely not like celebrating lockdown, but there was oddness and a mysterious beauty with how suddenly everything was so quiet and the air was so clean. And there was for the first time in a long time, bioluminescence came back to Santa Monica Bay, and I took my kids down to see it. And so those strange moments were a good place to dwell for the novella. But if I was like writing alone at home or in the backyard, I'd have to take a break to remember we're not still in lockdown, you know, that we've moved out of it.
I don't know why this is a thing, but I have another monkey fact about that. So
I think
don't
we did a
think.
monkey trivia.
I think it just I must pay attention to monkeys a lot because I just dislike them, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But apparently, I forget which country this was. It may have been Malaysia or India. But apparently, with everyone being locked down, all the monkeys kind of invaded the streets. And apparently, we're having monkey wars with each other.
Wow. So it's
Yeah.
akin to the rat wars that were going on in New York.
Yeah. So don't trust monkeys.
Okay.
No one should like monkeys. I don't know why I know so much about monkeys or have so many stories about monkeys. I swear I'm normal.
Yeah, monkey wars are not okay, Eliza.
They're
Oh my
not
goodness.
okay, Eliza.
Not okay.
But they happened, and their monkeys are awful. But okay, last question before we run our first giveaway, so everyone get excited, get your drums out. What are you hoping readers will feel or take away like from reading Bleak Houses?
So Family Solstice, I wrote mostly because in being who I am is kind of a journey with understanding the privilege that I grew up with, which was not inherited from slave times. Anyway, the whole house story is not my family, but I did have great privilege growing up and sort of understanding it. And so I wanted to take I'm hoping that kids or anybody who reads it understands the love that Shay feels for her family. But when she starts learning uncomfortable truths, there's some reckoning that she has to do. And so I was hoping to sort of open up that inner dialogue for anybody who does read that. Safer, I feel like it might be more sort of, I'm hoping it's vindicating for people who have worked for folks who have asked too much or pushed too hard, and that they can explore how hard it is to hang on to yourself when you're very much wrapped up in someone else's life. And also, if you find something wrong, maybe I'm trying to work through my guilt over slipping that money through the slot in Hollywood, when one can say no to things one's boss asks them to do. So. But I hope mostly they're enjoyable reads and that, you're spooked and, had fun reading them.
Perfect. All right, everyone. So it's the first giveaway of 3. Each of the giveaway prizes is a copy of Bleak Houses signed by Kate herself. Yay! So everyone drums in chat. Just make drumming noises to yourself, Oh, also housekeeping. If you do win, I'm going to connect Kate to you. I'm going to give her your email address and then she'll email asking for your shipping address, just an FYI. So give me a couple days if you're a winner to get that going. Okay, drumming, yay. Going to roll my little off-screen wheel. And okay, it's buffering apparently. Let me refresh. Just one moment. It's a really like lo-fi site. Okay, here we go. And the winner, drumming. And if I say your name wrong at any time, it's not my fault. Cody Cisco.
Yay!
Hopefully it's Cisco. Yay! Are you in chat, Cody?
I am in touch with Cody and I will obtain his email address. I mean, his mailing address. Yeah.
Oh, so you have his email already? Perfect.
May just give him the book in person.
Oh, well, there you go. Lucky Cody Cisco. Congrats. You get a signed copy of the book. And I guess if you can get it in person, you can ask her to personalize. Well, I guess they can all ask you to personalize it if you're an email, whatever. I'm smart sometimes when I'm not thinking about monkeys. All right. So
they've invaded the day.
It's upsetting. I'm gonna have trauma. I'm gonna have bad dreams. All right. Again, there will be 2 more giveaways, so don't worry if you didn't win this one. You still have 2 more chances. But for our first reading of the day, which is even more exciting, and am I correct? This is going to be from Safer, the first novella?
Yes, it is.
All right.
All right. So, you go.
Hit us with it.
All right. So a bit of wind up. I set the story during lockdown in Los Angeles, as I said. Take yourself back to where it was so quiet, and in any city that you were in. There was no traffic, the bird song was outrageous, but we were all stuck. So our protagonist, Sol, is a college student studying child psychology and working toward a childhood education degree. Her long-term dream is to basically run a school or start a school when she's out there in the world and has experience. Before lockdown, she was working at a preschool, taking college classes, and her studio apartment was a fine crash pad. But now locked into it, she's staying away from her old aging parents. She doesn't want to put them at risk, and she's just been doom scrolling. So when she gets a chance to be an au pair for someone super wealthy, she jumps at the chance. And when she sees that beautiful castle in the hills and the enormous gatehouse apartment that's all hers, which is probably like the size of her parents' house, she's pretty excited. And she gets along well with Story, the child. It turns out Story's parents don't have much interest in him. So this distresses Sol, but she works to make his days and her days better for a short while. And when they're hiking, Story takes a tumble, hits his head really hard and gets a huge gash on his forehead. She goes back to the house and pleads with James Famous, which is what she calls the actor because of the non-disclosure, pleads with them to take the child to the hospital, but they don't want to risk COVID. And plus, he says he's had EMT training for a movie he was in. And he sews that child's head up in front of Sol. She has just spent the night staying up with him to make sure that, he doesn't have a horrible concussion. She's been dying to get him to the hospital. And she also said the kid needs a tetanus shot. This is the next morning, and Sol is not feeling so good, and she's kind of worried about internal bleeding. I didn't hear a peep from upstairs until we were all in the kitchen making pizza with Marcus. Marcus is their cook. So Sol thought she was going into a totally safe house and they were potted up together. All of a sudden, there's a live-in chef. This family is always making her feel uneasy. Marcus said, "And what does mommy want on her pizza?" Story said, "What are you kidding? Mommy doesn't eat carbs." Okay, after this time, he's still cracking. The internal brain bleed I imagined receded into my mind with the monkey ghost and Mrs. Wolf. We were constantly readjusting and making peace with things in this shifting world. Marcus threw me a deadpan look over Story's head, which I didn't want to acknowledge, so I feigned going to the fridge. Once I got there, I didn't know what to pretend I was doing until I saw some olives in the back and reached for them. It was a lot absorbing this family, its dysfunction, which I didn't want to know of, all of. I wanted to do my job, stay with the kid, get through the quarantine, make my money, and get out. But this every day of it, this inescapability of their weirdness intensified everything. The doorbell rang and I got up to go get it when I heard Celine's voice echo in the hall. "I've got it." I'm so sleepy. Story laid his head on the table and the brain bleed fear was back. I heard the door slam and Celine came into the kitchen with a brown paper bag. I looked at Story and leaned down to make a funny face at him, which was always my tact when there was something going on. I didn't want him to see. I figured Celine had scored, but I didn't want to know where she kept her drugs because I'd be tempted to look and see what they actually were. Story raised his head and put his chin on his hand, looking at me, amusement creeping into his eyes. He was on the mend. He wasn't getting worse. Then Celine was standing next to me, shoving a paper bag at me. "I need you to give Story a shot." "A shot?" His voice squeaked and alarm shuddered through his whole body. Kids' reactions were always primal. She shoved the bag back at me again, which would be in a way that would have me tell someone who's not my employer, "Back off, bitch," but had me saying, what kind of shot?" I got to my feet so at least the power dynamic could change. I had a feeling Celine was always shoving shit at people, coats, bags, Story's lunch. That's if he was ever going to school. Ugh, this pandemic. I took the bag from her because if she pushed it at me again, I'd have to smack that bag or her to the floor. "What now?" "We got him a tetanus shot from our," she stopped too long to be convincing, "doctor." Oh Lord, fixing parking tickets was nothing on what these people could get. I bet if they got COVID, they'd be the first to have a private room and a ventilator. I took the bag and opened it. Rich people don't die. Inside the bag was a plastic wrapped hypodermic needle and a little bottle. The bottle was full of tetanus vaccine. I had no idea how many doses it was, but a piece of paper flashed pink inside. I reached in. It was a sticky note. In bad handwritten Sharpie, it read zero point 0.5 milliliters per IM, same after 4 weeks, 6 months. I don't give shots. It wasn't entirely true. I'd administered emergency epinephrine, and one kid had diabetes, and I had to give him an insulin shot daily there for a while. But I had to draw the line somewhere. Celine needed pushback. Celine let out an exasperated ugh and stormed out of the room, her patchouli stinky feet going after her. Maybe she wasn't on drugs. Maybe she was just depressed. Story said, "I'm going to have a shot." There was the distant sound of arguing and JF, which is what she calls James Famous for short, saying, "All right, Jesus, take a fucking chill pill, will you?" JF stormed into the room in his underwear with an open robe billowing behind him like a cape. Celine followed like the smug kid who tattled. He looked at me, left holding the paper bag, and I tried not to cower as he strode over to me in full Papa Bear mode. Marcus moved swiftly away to pretend to be busy at the sink, and Story said, "Hey, Daddy," cautiously gauging his mood. This definitely wasn't his first experience of Daddy losing his temper. JF looked at me again, and he took a moment as if he were sorting through a filing cabinet of rolls and choosing the right one to play here. He chose his cute, plaintive face. He tilted his chin down, his eyes up, and a wry smile came to play on his lips. It was simultaneously mesmerizing and sickening, and he was wearing entirely the wrong outfit for this tack. He needed a nubby sweater or simple t-shirt and jeans. He said, "Soul, soul of mine." I looked up at Celine to see if she was irritated by her husband so obviously flirting with me, but she was watching like a spectator at a cooking contest. She only wanted to see if he won. My stomach flopped. I said, "I don't give shots. It wasn't in the contract. He should really see a doctor, you know. He got get a CT scan. Concussions are serious." His hand went toward me, and he was pushing my hair out of my face. Oh, for fuck's sake. And smiling at me like he had to do Uma Thurman in that movie back when they were both in their 20s, like he only had eyes for me. I pulled back a little, and his hand fell to his side, but his face got closer to compensate. I got to tell you, his breath was not great, but that closeness had a weird pull to it. I lost track of what I was arguing here. There was a reason I had to push back, if for no other reason than to not disappear. He said, "It's not that hard, right? I mean, you've had CPR, all that training. They don't train us to." He cupped my chin in his warm, suddenly there again hand. I was nauseated and trapped. I stepped back suddenly and fell into the breakfast nook bench. He said, "Just a shot in the arm." I heard a snuffle behind me. Story was crying. I turned around and he crawled up into my lap, curling into as small a space as he could. This kid's bullshit detector was on high alert, and he knew he was going to get the rotten end of the deal either way. He was looking at his dad with fear. JF read this and dropped into a squat and put on his charming dad smile. He kept this look handy in his pocket, it seemed. "You've got this, right, sport?" He looked over JF's shoulder at Celine, who pulled her mom out her mom smile. She nodded at him. Story said, "Only if Soli does it for me." I was irritated and warmed by the new nickname. He scooted off my lap and pulled a footstool out of the island, which he heaved himself up onto, and he pulled his little sleeve up. I said, "Okay, let me." Fuck these people. JF said, "Great." And like the wraiths they were, JF and Celine slunk out of the door and disappeared into their lair. Marcus made a disapproving noise like an old woman. Mm-mm-mm. He opened the oven, sliding a baking tray in. Okay, well, I didn't trust the Sharpie writer and double-checked the dosage for a boy of Story's age and weight. Sure enough, it was 0.25 milliliters, not 0.5. I sat in the breakfast nook where my shaking hands wouldn't drop the precious liquid. I should just take this kid to emergency. But he seemed to be doing better, and it was just a shot. That night when I put Story to bed, he hugged me an extra long time, and I had to finally pry myself from his grip. "Okay, kiddo, nighty-night." I texted Celine like I did every night. "He's in bed." Story said, "Sol, if the planet is spinning, why don't we fly up into space and everywhere?" The phone buzzed back. 2 words. Not tonight. The fuck? She had missed meals, but never bedtime. "So, because it's spinning is exactly why we don't fly out into space." Why? Why was the big question at age 4. I said, "Who do you think would know the answer to that?" "Not Daddy." I stifled a laugh. I wanted him to think about scientists. I said, "Who else?" "Mrs. Wolf. She told me that Missy hates her because she imprinted on Mr. Wolf." Imprinted? Im When you see someone and you know they're yours, like baby ducks. This kid was killing me. I said, "Oh, imprinted." He said, "I imprinted on you." Thank you.
Yay. Claire says, quote, "Rich people don't die, check mark." Well, lots of people, they're loving that scene.
And also later on in Q&A, if anybody wants to ask me about an uncomfortable celebrity story that I heard of from a friend where they did that get very close and look very pleading thing about something very silly, I'll share it.
Yeah. Be ready to question. There will be a Q&A at the end of the event where you can grill Kate, ask her all the information. Linda says, "Love the scene, need to read the whole thing." Lisa says, "Love that reading of the scene." And it is the end of the first reading. So it's time for our second giveaway. Yay, look at this. It's like Oprah, you get a signed copy. You get a signed copy.
If you look under your seat.
Yeah, it's a monkey. Oh, God.
Oh, you just did that.
Okay, everyone drumming as I click my cheap flash internet wheel. And the winner of the second signed copy, and again, hopefully I can say your last name right, Lisa Chibi.
Lisa Chibi, fabulous poet.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad somebody knows the last names. Oh, so Lisa, you say you have 2. Should I re-roll the wheel? Draw another name. Okay, she's a generous one. Okay, I'm gonna take your name off the wheel. Re-rolling. Drums again.
Hey.
Tom Stockhindle, Hendel, Hendel, Hendel,
Handle.
uh, Hendel.
I will
Tom,
also get him his copy personally, so you don't have to worry about the address.
nice. This is so easy.
Play is like that.
Congrats, Tom. And okay, so our second reading, and totally transparent, this was my favorite novella of the two. Love this one. Family Solstice. Super excited for this one. Which part are you reading?
I'm going to read from the winter solstice. But I
Okay.
know, and it was my husband was like, "You can't read the winter," but I don't give anything away in it.
Okay, beautiful. It's a promise, people. All right, hit us with it.
All right. So just to set it up, the Massey family home has been in the family for generations, and the land generations before that. It's a lovely home that has given them so much over the years. But every year on winter solstice, the family has to do something. This is a family secret, and Shay, the youngest, will be the last to find out exactly what's in the basement. She's been training hard, 2 swishes to the left with light, and stab twice with the poker and advance. You have to fight whatever this is until sunrise the next day, so she had to get very strong. It's Shay's 13th year, and it's finally to perform the family duty of fighting. Her older siblings won't tell her anything, but she's excited and ready to take all comers. Even if they had, nothing could truly prepare her for what she has to face. Solstice has traditions like pork roast and potatoes with rosemary, like their mother making cocoa for them before slipping off to bed. This year has been kind of different and weird all day. Mama is a little bit darker um, and keeps staring at her and petting her head, which is a little bit off brand. No training today. I'll need all my strength for tonight. Today, I get sole possession of the best TV chair and my choice of television, but since it's a weekday, it's only I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie. No Sunday movies or anything. I turn on the soaps after lunch because of the drama music and the serious conversations. It all becomes blurred as I fall asleep. I wake to a loud commercial playing an electronic version of Carol of the Bells, and the most solstice-y feeling ever because the house is filled with the smell of pork roast and potatoes with a hint of rosemary. I was dreaming a springtime dream, perhaps because someone has put a fuzzy blanket over me and Gainsley is asleep on my feet. I'm sweaty. But here I am. The sunlight is already waning. It's getting time for dinner, and it's my turn. Good morning, sleepyhead. Trust Dad to say the cliche dad thing. He's standing in the doorway, and a part of me wonders if he hasn't been doing that whole stare at you until you wake up bit. How you feeling? Fine. Horrible, terrified, upset, irritated, he's asking. Good, good. Dad looks up at the frame on the wall, which holds a very old yellow document with writing scrawled on it. He taps on the frame. Do you know what this is? The deed, yes. There was no one to draw it up because there wasn't even a town here yet. Your 12 times great grandfather had to mail it to England to make it official. And the land was ours. I get it. He chuckles. Well, kiddo, when you're all grown up and this place is yours, you can bore your own kids with that story. Birthright. A quick flicker of excitement penetrates my fear. I kick Gainsley off my legs and heave myself off the sofa. Mama stares at me as she serves the meal. Usually she's kind of absent, going through the motions, but there's definitely something new at play in her eyes this year. She stares at me to the point where it's creepy. I look right at her and say, "What?" I guess I said it too harshly because tears come to her eyes. She gets up from the table, walks over to me, and gives me a hug, a kiss on the head, and she's out the door without a word. That anger I felt when she bailed on Martina has turned into a feeling of complete betrayal and abandonment. She's leaving me to do this on my own. I swallow some tears I didn't expect. Martina and Jeffrey look after her, stunned without a word. Something is definitely off. I have to ask Dad again, is there something you're not telling me? I mean, aside from all the things you don't tell me? He picks up his whiskey and downs it in one gulp. He gets up and walks over to the cabinet to the stove where the whiskey bottle is stored and pours another, a tall one. The last time I saw him pour a second whiskey, it was after Carl came up with that cut on his arm. And that was like forever ago. Jeffrey says, is Mama coming back? What about the cocoa? Martina scrambles and gets up. I'll get it. Don't worry about Mama. She has a headache. I say, what are you not telling me? Jeffrey raises his eyebrows and shrugs. Look, you'll know soon enough. Then we can talk. Martina makes the cocoa and passes out 3 cups. Then she and Jeffrey start gearing me up and offering last-minute advice. As she pulls the breastplate over my head, Martina says, "Make sure to watch that left lunge." Martina, Dad warns. He says to me, "The left is important. It's the one you don't see coming when you're fighting to the right. And whatever you do, don't look." Jeffrey straps the shin guards on my legs. "Is this too tight?" I push, Dad. "I won't look. I mean, I know, but what if I see something? I can't help my eyes." Dad, who is shoring up the shoulders of my breastplate with safety pins, stops suddenly and steps around in front of me so I can see him. His face is terrible. His voice is worse. "Shay, what have I taught you?" I flush like I've been smacked. I look at the ground and murmur, "Watch your feet. Remember the moves. You'll be okay." "Right. If you remember everything we've taught you, you'll be fine." The worry on his face totally freaks me out. "Daddy?" He pulls me to him and my breastplate hits him with a thunk. "I love you, kiddo. You're brave. You got this." He murmurs this into my hair and his voice cracks, which doesn't instill confidence, nor does the fact that I smell whiskey on him in a saturated way that lets me know he's been drinking it a while. This year, the drinking is heavy, and this year, it's about me. And he never hugged anyone before they went down. It's off-brand for prepping the kid for battle. My clattering heart jangles out to my limbs in a newfound panic. Why is all of this different? Martina and Jeffrey get the duct tape and fasten the flashlight to one of my hands, the crowbar to the other. Even when I swear I will never drop my weapon, they insist this is the way things are done. I'm pushed and prodded and tightened. My chest hurts and I want to cry, but I just say, "Jeffrey, the right leg is too tight." He kneels and adjusts it and smacks my leg twice when he's done. We walk around to the basement door together. I might just barf. Dad lifts the 2x4 from across the floor. They always said it was for burglars, but I know better. Dad turns on the light, a single bulb that hangs from the ceiling down below me. I look back at my family. I swear Martina's going to cry. Dad nods at me and I step down 2 stairs so they can close the door behind me. The door closes, leaving me in the breathing basement. Thanks.
Yay! Eliza loved the "my clattering heart." I definitely will say when I read this, it was such a tense scene. I was like so excited to learn what was in the basement, and I was not expecting it. I won't say anything more.
No monkeys, though.
No monkeys,
I
thank
don't think that's a
God.
spoiler.
No, safely say there were no monkeys. Thank God. Okay. So it is the last giveaway. Don't cry, everyone.
Yay! Shout out to his apartment. Anyway.
Yep, everyone hitting the drums. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna hit this digital wheel and the last signed copy. Oh, I know him, Carson Winter. He's actually my co-host at the podcast and a last minute attendee. Congrats, Carson, if you're still here.
Thank you for coming, Carson. He's there. I see him.
Is he? Is he here? There he is. Okay.
You on my screen.
Okay. Congrats, Carson. Bridget, you're just mad you didn't win. Don't say that. That's so rude. All right, now it's already time for the Q&A. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll read them out. But let's begin with Noah. Eliza says, Carson, aren't you glad I messaged you? Read post from Maya. Okay. See my struggles. I'm like, oh God. What is your next project? See, I will say that's a question I usually save till the end. What are you working on next? Well, we can hit
she
it
jumped
first.
the gun and
yeah, that's
well
okay,
done, Maya.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yes. I actually have my second horror novel coming out. Apparently this was not, Safer was not enough working through the trauma of working in Hollywood. And I put into a very vast novel. There are demons running it. There's some Hollywood history. And
I can believe the demons running it, if I'm being real.
And it's crystallized in time in 2016 because too much happened after to sort of catch up to. But it was a really fun one to write. And it's got a lot of intrigue and debauchery and horribleness and a little bit of hope because I can't write horror without a little bit of hope.
What's the title?
It's called The Collective, and it'll be coming out from Writ Large Press. And that's something you can actually subscribe to. They'll be releasing a chunk a week. And
Oh,
if you do
nice.
subscribe, you get a discount on the paperback.
Beautiful. Okay. Jennifer Barnes. Oh wait. I misread.
Oh, the previous,
Zach
yeah. No,
Fromson.
oh, okay.
Oh, Zach was first. What's an idea that you loved but had to cut?
Um, oh, I did not. It's interesting. Novellas are such a, I always cut huge swaths um, out of my novels. I did not cut a great deal from this. It was more on a sentence level, I think, writing through. Everything that I loved kind of stayed in. I cut things that were not good, but there was nothing I left.
What wasn't good? Did you have two monkeys? Like, tell us.
Yeah, two monkeys was definitely a problem. No, no, no. I can't remember. Editing is such part and parcel. So yeah.
No, that's completely fair. But obviously, Lisa and Eliza want the celebrity stories.
Yeah, so this one is actually, it was told to me by a friend who was with a band one night that was at a party in Hollywood. And the owner said, "Can you stay an extra hour?" And they said, "No, we've got to go, or you can pay us a lot." And they were like, "No, we're not paying extra, but we just want you to stay longer." So they started packing up, and then someone sent them Julia Roberts. And Julia Roberts sat down with the manager or the lead of the band, and just sat across from him and pulled out her charm and every acting thing that she knew.
Did she do the hair thing where she was like,
I'm not sure the details of it, but it definitely felt super smarmy to
Julia
this guy
Roberts,
who
come
was like,
on.
this is not, there was this idea, this entitled idea that this would work. And it was just kind of disappointing and shocking for that person to think that, and also these people who were super wealthy and could very easily pay the band a great deal to stay later would pull this on them. So that's kind of where that scene came from,
Hmm.
that intenseness. So.
Um, Lane, hopefully saying this right. Lane says, "What is your writing process like? Any tips?"
Everyone has a different process, and everything you're doing is correct. That is one thing. I
Unless you're
think a
doing it
lot of,
wrong, then you suck.
yeah, that, no, but a lot of writers, I know what stops them is that they stop because they think it's not going well. And I was talking to a writer friend last night. We were talking about how drafting is just horrible and it always feels horrible, and how revision, for us at least, and again, different for everybody, it's fun. So I think the thing to do is to keep at it. And also in my newsletter, which you can get on my through my website, I actually just talked about a novel that came out of two abandoned short stories that were not going anywhere. But I just put those characters together and had them sort of imagine they were related. And then this entire novel came from it. So as my mom said, nothing is wasted. So everything you write, keep those journals, keep all that stuff, and you can later use it as writing prompts.
You actually didn't give me your website. What's your website?
Oh, it's katemaruyama.com.
Perfect. So
Pretty
visit her
easy.
website, sign up for her newsletter for all the best writing tips. A similar question came from Daniel Pickett. Best time of day to write? Any rituals before writing? And how do you break writer's block?
Good point. Yeah, I don't have any rituals because for the longest time I was writing and managing two kids and they are on their own time. I definitely prefer to write in the morning after having had some exercise. And I prefer to write in quiet, which is a hard thing sometimes. But no specific rituals because there just wasn't time for them, but definitely sitting down for a good chunk, at least 3 times a week, toward whatever I'm working on. Avoiding writer's block, the best thing to do is to stop in the middle. If it's going well, don't write till you're dry. And also write yourself when you're in that stop spot, what you want to do the next day, even if it's half an idea. And sometimes when I can't go forward, especially drafting because it is awful, I'll go back through and see what kind of context clues I've left myself and what's there before to write after. So,
See, it's so funny because I am the complete opposite. I love drafting. I hate editing.
see?
I actually finished my first novel maybe like a month ago and I haven't touched it since because the next step is editing. And I was like, I should edit. And then I was like, but maybe I should start the next project instead.
That's so funny. I mean, I think that's great. I would love that kind of, being able to just like run with it. And some ideas do that. I definitely have like one novel that like I was 30 pages in and I'm like, it's going swimmingly. And then that one shut down for the longest time. Another way to avoid writer's block is don't put all your hopes on one project. Just cheat on that project with another project.
Do you have like a minimum writing goal each day?
No, I'm not a word counter. Usually it's just that the time I spend in the chair, I've got to be working on it in one way or another. But if it's about producing words, it starts to not get as good for me. I mean, the writing itself. So I just make sure that I'm in that space. And sometimes short stories really stop me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and go through the short story again. It takes me a long time to get out of where I've stopped sometimes.
Mhm. And now, Alyssa Faye, no question, just a huge thank you to Kate. Her encouragement made me continue in my MFA program when I wanted to
Oh,
quit. I'm on my
good.
last class now.
Oh,
Congrats, Alyssa.
congratulations. That's so great. I always love to hear that stuff. Oh, it's so nice. Yay.
Yenny, I think.
Yes.
Yenny says Kate is a great person to have in one's support system.
Aw, thank you, Yenny. Yenny is also a phenomenal writer. You definitely have to look up her flash fiction pieces. They're stunning. I teach them.
Linda Addison says great ideas and tips. Carson agrees with me saying agree editing is the worst. Reed says I love my mom in all caps.
Thank you,
Uh,
Reed.
Lisa says those are great ideas, especially stopping when you are in a flow and leaving a note for where to go. I am the opposite. I write until I'm dry and then I just continue writing until like I guess I bleed everywhere. Metaphorically, hopefully. Um, Eliza says love both editing and drafting for different reasons because she's a monster. Um, as we wait for more audience questions, do you have a favorite classic horror monster
Oh, goodness.
and why?
I think that changes every time I read a new thing. But I'm deeply in love with the monster from Frankenstein because it's so sad. His inner monologue is so articulate and beautiful and just devastating because it's about, I think everyone can have a different interpretation. I read it as being the child of a parent unable to love you. And he's always reaching out for Victor. And he can't, I mean, he crosses oceans in a rowboat for him. He's my favorite. I definitely have the deepest affection for him.
Hmm. And it's I think it speaks to a lot of people how driving loneliness can be,
Hmm.
or seeking familial acceptance even. Eliza has a tough question, okay,
Okay.
and you have to answer it.
Uh-oh.
Favorite book, you can only pick two.
Yeah, that's just rude. And especially because you're a writer and we
Here
have
we are.
a
I'm
million
sorry,
favorite
I
books.
didn't ask it. Eliza did, and you're trapped here now
It
on
changes
the
every
air.
year. I can tell you like my favorites from this year. Okay, one that I've read over and over and have taught is Jesmyn Ward's Sing Unburied Sing. I think that's a deeply beautiful book. Um, Man, I should honestly, I think all of us like need to carry around cards that like have those answers on them just to be able to like have something to say. Um, See, I need to look up my phone and my Kindle. I cannot remember another. I've
Eliza
read so,
got you
oh, you know
good.
what? No. I got it. I got it. How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu was my last favorite thing to read. Beautiful short stories. Just phenomenal.
All right, next one, Reed. Would you ever adapt one of your stories into a screenplay and go back to Hollywood?
If someone asked me to and paid me scale, which I hope will be higher by then, go writers. Um, yes, but not go back to Hollywood. I mean, I wouldn't like, I definitely am not longing for the 16-hour days or a writer's room or the lunches and driving to an undisclosed location in Hollywood, not wanting to go back there.
Okay, another tough one. Both Zach and Carson want to know your least favorite book. Pick one.
I do not do that because I believe in
Yep.
writers and I believe that
I had to ask it. Two people did.
yeah. And I do have to say that, I think that books speak to everyone. I've definitely read some doozies, and I'm always thinking in my head, there is someone out there for this book.
Absolutely fair. Okay. Next, Bridget actually has one. My student loan repayment guide is my least favorite book. That is absolutely fair.
I think that's totally fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
anything that is associated with unpleasant, yeah.
I think as a joke, somebody got me a book from the dollar store, and it was a YA book about a father and son duo trying to find Bigfoot. And I think I just didn't like it because it was YA. It was just too young for me. So I did not finish that. I
But
guess
there's somebody for that book.
yes,
Somebody was
I'm
moved
sure
for that book.
any YA or even like Bigfoot fans would love it. But I just was like, I can't read this.
Other son duo readers.
Zach says, yes, that's my framing as well. Rather than this was bad, I default to I was not the target audience for this book, just like the Bigfoot book. Or my least favorite book would probably be a book about how monkeys are the best animals in the world and we should all love monkeys. No, not for me. Uh, Reed asks, what advice would you give to college level people thinking about going into the film industry?
Oh goodness, that's a whole other hour, but please let your college level people know. I will absolutely give them that hour individually. I think it's a broader, more open place than when I first got in, and there are many entry points. I would find local filmmakers where you are and see what they're up to and form those friendships because that's usually where good projects come from. But I'm there for deeper and longer advice for sure.
And then not a question, but Claire says there's no signing line, so I can't gush at Kate there. But I was her student in 2018, and her encouragement totally changed my life. I was a journalist, and now I'm about to enter my second year of an MFA program where I got a full scholarship, and I don't know if I would have kept going without her.
Oh, Claire, that's awesome. Rock
Yeah.
on. That's so cool. Yay.
But we are kind of getting to time now. There's 2 minutes left. So I think this is a good time to reshare those links. So can you say your website one more time since I didn't have that?
Just myname.com, katemaruyama.com. And also, I did want to say that this line of novellas is really going to be amazing. Collect them all. They're just beautifully chosen, and there are some phenomenal writers coming down the pike in next year, starting in January. So tune into rawdogscreaming.com, or I'm sorry, rawdogscreamingpress.com to keep up with that.
Perfect.
And
So
thank you so much for coming. I love seeing all of these names in here. I'm going to be talking to you individually by email. It was so great seeing you. We've got Linda Addison, who's on the Diverse Works Inclusion Committee and is responsible for the Sears table at HWA and is a dear friend and colleague. And we've got Catherine McGee, so many horror folks and East Coast folks. It's just very nice to see everybody. So thank you for coming.
yep, thank you everyone. And Kate, thank you for letting me host your book launch event. This has
Well,
been so
thanks
much
for
fun.
hosting it. It was so fun.
Yeah, I will connect you to Carson Winter since you knew the other two. I'll give you his email so you can get his address. And thank you, everyone. Again, if anyone has missed this, it will be
Thank you,
live.
Jennifer Barnes, for making
Yeah.
this all happen. And thank you, Eliza, for hooking me up with PJ.
Absolutely. And I will put this up on YouTube. So if anyone has missed it, feel free to share the YouTube link. And thank you again, everyone. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.